This is the Voice of Bold Business Radio, and I am your host, Jessica Dewell of Red Direction. You are listening to Connections by Design. I have to tell you this. Every once in a while, there's somebody that you meet, and really you don't meet them. You find them online, and you stalk them a little bit, and you see what they're all about. And maybe you get them, and maybe you don't, but you know they're interesting. You know they have something that could help you learn more. Well, I have to tell you, Ken Gordon is one of those people for me. He came across my radar of somebody else, and finally reached out to him, and we figured out how to have a conversation, and we found that we have something that we could talk about, how noisy this world is that we're in, and how much content there is out there, and that the whole purpose of all that content is wrong. And this show is about what's wrong with it, and what can we do about it? And how do we look at things in a different way so that we're adding value instead of adding noise? Ken Gordon invents highly original content and ensures that it finds the proper audience. He is the community strategist at Continuum. Make sure you subscribe to the Voice of Bold Business Radio so that you can not only get this program, but all of our future programs on your preferred listening device. And the reason I wanted to bring Ken on the show was because there are 3 elements of content marketing that he's looking at. And really, it's not even content marketing. It's not even content. It's truly based in connection. That's the title, Connections by Design. So taking the desire that there are people out there that we want to know, and then figuring out, have they written anything useful and worthwhile? And I mean, do they really know what they're talking about? And are they able to articulate it clearly and concisely and quickly? And are they willing to build on that idea with people around them? That is what Ken does in his 3-pillar approach to what content is. When he broke it down, that's what he broke down for us. You're going to have 3 amazing examples of ways that content was created and built upon, ways that the work of innovation actually adds to our lives, and some life experience of anywhere we are in life, we can keep learning. It's up to us to decide why we're doing it, how we're going to do it, and make sure that it's the quality that we want to actually improve. Enjoy listening to Ken and I talk about Connections by Design.
Welcome to the Voice of Bold Business, the show that provides everything smart leaders need to evaluate situations, build relationships, and create solutions. Jessica Dewell candidly talks about the skills necessary to build tenacity and do more with less.
You know, I love playing the piano, and that's part of the difference between doing something that's a sort of a task and a job and something that you do out of pure, legitimate passion. If you want to do something where you're getting 10,000 hours at it, you have to find something you actually love. There's an absolute level on that one.
Did you stumble across that then?
Yeah, my brother taught me how to play the entertainer with one hand. I was like, that's pretty good. And I started teaching myself, and my parents said, okay, we should get him some lessons. And when I didn't like the piano lesson guy, they're like, okay. I'm like, I think I can do this on my own. And they said, okay. And that was that.
One of the things that you're super passionate about as a journalist are words and how they are put together and the stories that they tell.
You know, I've always been interested in books and reading and writing, and I've always wanted to make my own stuff. I remember I used to put on plays when I was a little kid. And I actually wrote a play in 5th grade with my friend Ari Eisner. And I remember, I don't know what prompted that, but we did it out of just the hell of it. And then I did another one in 6th grade. And then I kind of stopped doing that. And I got interested in music, and I started playing in a band. Yeah, so I've always been about making and expressing myself and finding ways to do that. I didn't like to be sanctioned creativity. It was always a turnoff to me. It was really pretty much just make it happen on your own.
You are looking to build relationships through your content.
Yeah, I think the whole problem with content marketing in general is it's not focused enough. It's not focused enough on the effect it has. It's thinking at most about collecting likes and comments. And I feel like content, when really done well, is a way to build community between 2 people, to make an artifact of community as a way of showing the strength of a relationship. There's this wonderful writer and designer named Jessica Helfand, and she wrote this book called Design, the Invention of Desire. And I had read the book. And as I was reading the book, I would tweet out comments about it to her. And we had some sort of back and forth about this. And Jessica, over time, and I developed a friendship. And when she came to Boston, she came and met me in my studio here where we work at Continuum. And we had this most amazing, really long, really in-depth conversation. And partially we were able to do that because I had read her book. So I had a very good idea of what her thinking is about. And because she had read my tweets and we'd gone back and forth, she had some sense of what mine was about. And then having this offline, face-to-face conversation allowed us to have an incredibly deep conversation. And that led to a dialogue we wrote together and published in Print magazine. And if you look at that, you can see the remnants of that conversation, which was a published, edited conversation we did in a Google Doc, but it started very much on Twitter. It really started with her thinking in her book. I consider her a genuine friend of mine and someone as an informant. And on top of that, I now write very often for her website called Design Observer about design and literature, which are two things I'm interested in. And so we've created this sort of professional relationship and a friendship that is, for anybody who cares to look at it and eavesdrop on our conversation or to read the stuff that we produce together, a broadener that takes that information and brings it out to a wider audience and informs and entertains anybody who comes across it. So it really is content that has helped cement this friendship, and a friendship that leads to more content. It's really a self-perpetuating kind of thing.
Did you have an intention that she would respond back?
With this kind of thing, you never know for sure.
You never know for sure, but your intention was, I want to make a connection with this person who wrote this very cool book.
So I'm all about quality. I think that's really what matters most to me, and quality in content, quality in conversation, quality in community. You want to have people worth talking to and things worth saying and projects worth doing and relationships worth having.
Can you even break down quality and define that for us? What does quality mean to you?
For example, Jessica is a quality person. Jessica is a professor at Yale, and Jessica is the founder of a very well-regarded website called Design Observer, and she's the author of a clearly top-shelf book about design. Because I work in the innovation design world, it is relevant to people I know that she considers me someone she can speak to, someone who is a collaborator that helps ratify in the position, in the minds of people who care about design and innovation, that this is a person worth talking to. It invites other people of similar quality to come in and join and talk to us.
Let's talk about the content that you create. What is the purpose of the things that you write for Continuum or Quick Muse or for Jessica's website when you do that?
The purpose is to be interesting. The purpose is to be smart. The purpose is to be interesting and smart in a certain area, and that is an area of innovation and design.
Ken, you and I are still getting to know each other.
This is true. The awesome thing about social media is it puts you into contact quickly with the right people. Like, there are ways of finding the people you should be talking to that you wouldn't in a million of years have otherwise met. I'm thankful for it every day that this kind of thing exists. It really is an amazing learning experience for me. The idea that I can put myself in a position to be a student or a teacher all the time is really what I'm using this for. It's a great privilege to be able to know that I should be doing this and then to do it.
Now, do you consciously know when you are the student or when you are the teacher, or is it so ingrained in you now that it just flows in and out of everything?
Sometimes you know, sometimes you don't. Really, the idea is if you can find good people to talk to, it goes back and forth. And that's what makes a really great conversation and a great, interesting dialogue, is that you have someone who can teach you and you be someone who can teach. It depends as much upon you as it does upon your interlocutor. If you can match yourself with the right person, you can have magic, and that's what I'm looking for.
Have you ever broken down your filter of what makes something smart, what is interesting, and how do I apply it to my own personal learning? What I need to do in the role in my business, how I want to learn when something captures my attention?
I don't think of it that schematically. I mean, I know what's interesting to me very sort of intuitively. Part of what I do, and part of the reason why I'm able to sort of talk to people like Jessica, is that I know that to really have something worth saying, you have to have depth of knowledge. And that's one of the reasons why I read books. That's one of the reasons I choose to read good books, because you are what you read. You write what you read. You speak what you read. And it's very important to read deeply and well and good stuff to basically walk a mile in the consciousness of someone who really knows what the hell they're talking about before you open your mouth. And it's very important to inform yourself before you head out into the marketplace of ideas. I think part of my duty as someone who's in this, whatever thought leadership world is to really stock up some thoughts and not merely to walk out and start throwing out whatever garbage is going around. Like, you really want to give it some thought. You want to have endless rehearsals about what you want to say so that when it comes out, it sounds good, it's focused, it's smart, it's to the point. You pare away the cliches and you say what's true, you say what you feel, and you inform it with what your learning brings to what learning you have.
Okay, I'm going to go back to what you're reading. Are there books that you come back to every year, every few years, so that you can reapply it in the way things are changing in our society and our world today?
Absolutely.
Do you have some that you want to share? Yes, no?
Yeah, I read all of Emerson. Ralph Waldo Emerson's a great guy to read. I read this great Robert Pirsig just died, the author of The Art of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Nicholson Baker is a wonderful writer. Nobody observed the world as closely as that guy. Philip Roth. I am a lifetime English major. I'll never get away from that. But I am an inveterate book snob, and I know there are millions of really great books that I haven't had the time or energy or patience to get to or through. And I know they're out there for me. So I'm pretty picky about what I'll pick up.
Do you read the introduction and the afterword and then? Do you just not even worry about it? I'm just curious.
If you lose me in the first page of the first chapter, there's little chance that it's going to go on. I have friends and critics who I trust as good references. And I know that someone who's really well read won't usually give me a dog to chase after. They will give me something worth reading. If it feels like a dog, I will assume that it's me who's not ready for it. And I know that literature is very patient and it will wait till I'm ready for it. And I don't assume necessarily that it's literature's fault. I assume that I'm not ready. And I think that's part of the student-teacher mindset. Like, you really want to understand that there's always something to learn and to have a kind of humility about it.
When did you know, I want to be involved in the literary world?
I was a reader when I was a kid from a very early age, and I read some Mad Magazine and Choose Your Own Adventure books and that kind of thing when I was a kid. I got a little bit into literature in high school, but not in a serious way. It wasn't until college where I had a great writing instructor named Dewell. He asked us to write a piece about something difficult that had happened to us. I wrote, which was really probably my first legitimate personal essay, and I didn't even know what a personal essay was at the time. I got a really good feedback on it, and he was an incredibly encouraging teacher as we went through the course of the semester. And as I started doing that, I was taking a couple of literature courses on the side. I realized that writing and reading go together. And at the end of the semester, he wrote on the pages, like, something tells me that you should make writing a part of your life. Okay, that's it. And then I read The World According to Garp. And The World According to Garp was a writer who stayed at home, got married, had some kids, and wrote. And I said, that's what I want to do. And by gum, I did it.
I found a quote that I thought was really interesting because it applies to what you do for innovation and design. And it's a George Nelson quote. You don't think your way to creative work. You work your way to creative thinking. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Thinking is a form of work. It requires effort and energy, and creativity doesn't just happen out of nowhere. But it also requires discipline, and it requires a sort of understanding of the full process. I mean, one of the things that's amazing about Continuum is that we don't just help people come up with ideas, we help them make them real. We're very much about making real. We're about not just prototyping and testing, but bringing things to market, making sure it has the right strategy, and turning a napkin sketch into something that turns onto the shelves and turns into a big success. It's a big, big part of understanding innovation, is understanding that there's a full breadth of it. There's a full continuum, if you will, about innovation. And it really is about from that initial spark to that final implementation. It really is something that people don't generally understand, or if they do understand it, they're not quite sure how to do it. It's complicated, it's difficult, but I feel very honored to be working in a firm that understands really the deep value and need and requirements of innovation.
But what are the things they're missing that are common across all of the clients that you're working with as a starting point to say, hey, I know I need more help here. I need to talk with somebody like Ken in Continuum?
One of the major things that's common just about everything we do is ethnographic research. So when we deal with a client and has a problem, we go out there and we see how their people who are truly their customers, how they use their product or service, And we listen to them very carefully. We watch them extremely closely. Going in there with a sort of beginner's mind and fresh eyes, we see things that these people who are only used to running their business efficiently and well cannot see. Then by noticing that things, we can begin the design process and say, okay, let's take a close look. For example, Procter & Gamble came to us and said, well, what's the future of mopping? And they sort of had some kind of chemical idea in mind. And we said, well, let us go into some of your customers' houses and watch them mop. What we noticed was that they spent more time sweeping up the floor before they mopped and then squeezing out that disgusting bacteria-soaked mop head afterwards, that we said, well, maybe there's an opportunity there. What if we could get rid of that head? What if it was a refillable head, a reusable head? And what came of that is said, oh, that's like the ejectable head on a razor. What if we took that form and applied it to the mop? Oh, and that turned into a Swiffer, which became a billion-dollar success story. It's a really good sense of how getting out to understand what customers are really doing, what they're really feeling, looking closely at what they're doing, and from that observation of the present, being able to make the future is what Continuum is all about.
So you're watching customers. How much do you actually listen to them and identify gaps between what they do and what they say they want? And how much validity are you putting on what they say they want versus them not even necessarily knowing what their problem is because they only have this small set of tools?
We listen to everything. We listen to both what's spoken and what's unspoken. We're therapists listening for the subtext. We're listening to the unexpressed needs, wants, and desires. Like, it is very much about taking the whole scene in and seeing what's there, what's hidden, what's partially revealed. And it really is our ability to decode what's really happening that makes the difference. When we can do that, we really are onto something.
And by the way, everybody, that is true regardless of the business. What is it that your business is decoding? And how are you listening to those people? Like what Ken was just describing, that can change the function of what the business does and how the business operates.
You should look at places where people go to have honest conversations. There are a million, let's say, Facebook groups on a million different topics. And I can guarantee that there are people who are your core customers or people who should be your core customers who are there, who really care about what you're talking about, but they're not doing it at your website. They're talking about it in their sort of self-organized website about fans of certain kind of ketchup or whatever. So you've got to learn to not just be so focused on your own self, and you've got to be understanding where else your people congregate and talk honestly about what you're doing. Because if you're in the ketchup business and you can't understand why your blog posts aren't getting comments and you don't really know what's going on, then you go into the ketchup lovers forum and you see what people are really saying, you could learn a lot more. So just getting outside and doing enough research about what else is going on out there that involves your relevant people, and then entering into those forums, going to those places where they are, can make just your learning so much stronger.
It's so funny. I hear this all the time. It's so hard to think. And I'm like, why is it so hard to think? It's so hard to think because I don't have any time. And I said, well, that's a whole different conversation. So how do you make time to think?
I'm a thought leader person, so thinking is part and parcel of the job. But I would say that if you have other tasks, you have to carve out the time. I mean, it's not a great big insightful thing. You just have to say, it's important for me to sit and just giving time to read something of quality and then write about it. That reflection that comes after reading is really important for people who aren't used to doing this, even if it's only for yourself in a journal or if it's a blog, that's good too. You know, it's a good idea to be thoughtful in forcing yourself to express your thinking. If you're not used to it, writing is a fantastic way to discipline your thinking. Not enough people who are outside of sort of thought leadership focused positions make the time and put the energy into that, but they should. That would do them a great deal of service, just to be able to try and articulate what's going on in their heads when exposed to stimulating stuff.
So the thing that I took away from what you just said, read something of quality and reflect on that in a written form.
Okay, I'll give you a perfect, very focused example your folks can use. There's a guy named Nicholson Baker. He wrote a book called The Mezzanine. The Mezzanine. This book is essentially what goes on in this guy's thoughts over the course of a lunch hour. And it is finely observed. This guy is one of the most brilliant writers there is. If you read this book you will start to think and see just the way he does over the course of an hour. Now, in the course of this hour, he goes into a Papagino's, he goes into a like a convenience store, and he has all these amazing thoughts about, amongst other things, retail. And just reading this book, getting a sense of this, and then you yourself going out and having a lunch hour right after having read it will make you thinking in that same way and seeing in that same way. You come home and write about it. Or you read that book, you go have your lunch hour in the areas where your customers are, in those environments where your business people do. And it'll teach you to be 1,000 times more observant than you were previously. And by using literature in that way and to expand your consciousness, to try on someone else's consciousness, will make your understanding of customer experience so much stronger. And by writing it out at the end, that will really, really make the difference. Nick Baker is one of the great writers of our time, really. And Mezzanine is a fantastic book and a great resource for anybody who wants to be smarter about themselves and observing the world and smarter about their business. It's a cool book.
Stop, look, and listen, my friend. It's that simple.
You got to pay attention. You know, a lot of people don't want to pay attention. A lot of people don't want to think. And the ones who move ahead do. It's not complicated.
It is not complicated at all.
That part's not complicated. Doing it's pretty complicated.
Well, it is. And it sounds painful. And I don't think it's painful. I think there's a difference between painful and hard. It's hard to actually start that conversation. It's hard to figure out the best way to connect with somebody. Okay, but does that mean we stop?
No.
No.
Don't stop.
Thanks for answering the question with a question. That was
Not
awesome.
a good answer. I think it's pretty obvious what the answer to that one is.
What's funny is how much the obvious needs to be stated sometimes.
Here's what it is. I know that I don't know enough. I'm driven to know more. I'd like to know more. I'd like to know better. That's what really, like, the possibility that I could do more, that I could know more, that I could be better, that I could write better, that I could think better, that I could connect better is what pushes me forward. I know I'm not wrong in that. I know that the propulsion to acquire more knowledge, to connect better with people is something that I want to do. That's unambiguous for me. People who really want to succeed in building relationships, succeed in learning, understand this. They take their learning as an opportunity to network. I talk a lot to young people who are just out of school who want to get into this business, and I tell them very simply that if you can set up a lifetime of network learning, you will get the places exactly where you want to go, because what you will be doing is making really smart people into your colleagues by showing yourself willing to think things through with them. If you do it in the right form, you can make people into your colleagues for life. You will get the kinds of people who will want to work with you, because coming at the questions, coming at their work, coming at life with a desire to learn more, to ask more, to add to yourself, and then add something else to the conversation is the kind of thing people want to have in their environments, in their learning environments, in their business environments, in their personal environments. You have to make the choice to make education your way of life. When you do that, you have enormous, enormous freedom and opportunity. And I feel like if you start there, rather than I want to get this job and this much money and do this much thing and that this whatever, that's really the road to all kinds of satisfaction in life.
There is this love of learning that we all have. Even if it's something we don't do in our daily lives, there's something that pulls to us and we want to do more of it. We can get lost in whatever that is. You heard Ken talking about the piano being part of that. For me, it is people watching and sitting on my front porch and talking to the people that go by. I could do that all day, every day. When we're doing the things that we love, we are actually absorbing way more information than we think we are. And it's what we do with it that matters. So when we take an initiative and we say, hey, my initiative is to read a book of substance this year. Maybe it's one book. It doesn't have to be 120. It doesn't have to be any of this stuff. Read a book. And as Ken suggested, read it and absorb it. So do something with it. Journal about it. Talk about it. Build upon it. Use it to incorporate it and see how it fits into what we're doing to move through, to continue to figure things out. Because he was also the first to say, I've got these things and I'm disciplined about it and I'm still learning and I still want to learn. And that's what makes me go. And I have to admit, I admire that about him because that is a path of life that I also look to. Knowing that you enjoyed this conversation and knowing that because this conversation was so good, you will want to listen to more and more Voice of Bold Business radio shows. Make sure you subscribe on your preferred listening platform and rate the show. Get them auto-delivered to you. You will find all the program notes at voiceofboldbusiness.com/P56. That is voiceofboldbusiness.com/P for program 56. You can also search Connections by Design. Now it's up to you. Do you really make connections by design?
Subscribe at thevoiceofboldbusiness.com and get more information, program notes, and past episodes. Bold leaders approach each situation and focus on action to achieve a higher level of leadership. Jessica Dewell, your business advocate, is the host of the Voice of Bold Business Radio. Thank you for joining us.